Welcome to the Human Together podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jason Floyd. Human Together is a show that is centered on humanity to create understanding and appreciation for individuals and groups that are both informative and thought-provoking. I have a deep appreciation for the visual arts. I believe they have lots of benefits for humans, whether it's psychological or even emotional. I love visiting art museums, and I've been to the Uffizi in Italy, the Art Institute of Chicago, and our very own art museum here in Oklahoma City. All these museums offered masterpieces from artists far and near, and I truly loved the artistry. But today we're going to look at a different type of art, public art. Art for the masses, if you will. It's free, it's attainable, it brings beauty to any city that it's in, and can have the same power and impact as the pieces that you see in museums. Today I have a conversation with Carlos Barboza, local artist who just painted a public works in Yukon, Oklahoma. Okay, welcome. I have Carlos Barboza, local artist, that I'm interviewing today. So let's just jump right in with a far-reaching question. Tell me a little bit about yourself, about your upbringing and your training as an artist.
Well, there hasn't been too much traditional training, I guess you could say. I have been always immersed in the arts since I was very little. My family has a bunch of different artists from different crafts, scattered about. I have, an uncle that's an architect and a cousin who's a very successful graphic designer down in Dallas, and another one of my cousins, a very successful filmmaker in Costa Rica. And, there's musicians here and there, and it's just kind of been it's always been something that's been very embraced by my family. And I don't think it has anything to do either with, my culture. It's just kind of because I am an immigrant from Costa Rica.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I was born in Costa Rica, and when we made the move when I was 10 years old. So I think just this last October, we reached our 2 decades of living in the States. It's kind of funny whenever whenever my parents are asked, why we moved here and that sort of thing. My mom, I don't know if she just says it to be nice to me, but she always said that we did it because of me, because I kind of apparently showed promise in the arts from very early on. And I think, the time Costa Rica just wasn't really a place where you'd see much success in the arts. And so,
have you gone back at all?
No, not really. I plan on going next year, though, and it'll be my first time in a while. No, it was a very healthy upbringing. I love being from Costa Rica, and, I still speak Spanish fluently, and my parents still speak to me in Spanish. But no, it was, again, I was always kind of very involved in the arts. I remember when I was 7 or 8, my parents, they put me in a cartooning class, and I remember it was me and a bunch of other adults that were in the classroom, and I was 7 or 8 probably. Wow.
It's a beautiful area. I'd love to go there myself one day. So.
No, it is. And that's the thing. Nowadays, my cousin being a filmmaker out there, you can definitely see the progression of film and the arts and stuff just rising from the ground. And one of the things that, because I've told him that he should come out here and pursue film here in the States, but he said that, currently is a very exciting time in Costa Rica for artists and filmmakers. Why come here and be part of the same kind of tapestry that's been running through when you can be part of the very beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. So focusing on your art, what types of mediums do you work in as an artist?
I try to never limit myself with any one. Traditionally, I for the longest time, I've always done pencil and paper, and that's still probably my favorite thing to do, where I find the most comfort. Painting has been the thing that I've been doing the most recently, just busting out the brushes. Spray paint as well has been probably my most recent medium that I've kind of tapped into. Digital art has been a pretty eye-opening sort of new frontier for me.
You have some of that on your website. What is your website? Look at some of your art.
Sure. It's actually very easy to remember. It's just my name. I was very lucky to get that domain. It's just www.carlosbarboza.com, and Barboza with a Z. But you can go on my website and see my digital art on there. I think I have my full portfolio.
Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff.
Oh, thank you.
So what attracted me to your artwork was the mural in Yukon on the grain mill. Can you tell me about that piece of art and how that became about and how you were commissioned to do that?
My entire career with Mural so far was kind of just by happenstance. I never really thought that's what I would be doing. I pursued a career in film for the longest time, and I had a friend who owns a business on Main Street, Yukon, T's Hair Design. She, for the longest time, we kind of flirted with the idea of me putting a mural in the back of her building, and on my day job, there happened to be one week where there wasn't going to be any work, and so I told her that if we were going to do it, it had to be that week. And so in the span of 1 week, I designed, prepped, and painted the wall behind her building. And it was kind of eye-opening, just the amount of positive feedback that I got from it. Kind of realized that would be a good way to use my talents to share with everybody, And anyway, from that, it's just kind of been snowballing to different business owners in Yukon, and eventually got to Pam Shelton, who's the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, and she's the one that came to me with the idea of painting something on the side of the mill to make it a Route 66 landmark in Yukon. Yeah, obviously, that's a very exciting idea for me, and this being my hometown, Yukon, and seeing the mill growing up, it was always, I don't know, it's a very big landmark in my hometown, and I was very honored the fact that I got to do that, to add something to it.
Well, and tell us about the size and scope of this project. It's a massive work of art. Tell us how big that is, and was that a daunting task to see that blank canvas, if you will? And
because from the road, when you look at it, it doesn't look terribly big, but once you get up to it, that's whenever it really comes into perspective. The wall, the size of it, I think is the measurements I took were 18 feet by 50 feet. And the way that I kind of tackled it, and the only way that I think I could do it without getting overwhelmed, was to treat each section as its own little mural. And so I kind of just did that. I had the design ready, and I just said, this piece I was going to do from one day to the other, and this piece from this day to the next. And I think that's been the best way to do it was to, there's like that saying, I'm not exactly sure how it goes, but it's, how does a person eat a whale? It's one bite at a time. And so...
How long did the whole project take you?
It took me, I think, like the span of 3 weeks, but actual work was probably condensed to a week and a half to 2 weeks. Just because, in between, there were some bad weather days that I had to kind of sit out.
And I was amazed at the amount of detail that you had in such a large work. Even when you step up to it, it's amazing the detail and the eye that you put into it. So.
Yeah, and that's always been something that... it's funny, I don't know, it's important to me. I know there's things that I put in there that it's always a pain to do, and I realize that I'm probably the only one that's ever going to notice it. But no, I don't know, that's always been, and ever since I was little, I've always dealt with a lot of detail, and I love detail.
It definitely shows.
One of the things that I appreciate the most whenever I see people looking up close to things that I've drawn, and I think with murals, what it allows me to do is that, 1 foot of... 1 square foot of wall, you can fit so much in it. So your murals are an expression of public art. Why do you think public art such as yours is important? What impacts do you think it makes on a community, public art? Oh, man. So that's been one of the things that I've been realizing the more that I do this, and why I'm growing more and more passionate about it as time goes on. For one, I think murals offer... I think that artwork in general, for the longest time, was always something that only the privileged were able to kind of take joy out of. Where you if you can afford artwork to fill up your house, you have to be relatively wealthy to be able to do so. But what I love about murals and that sort of thing is that it kind of democratizes artwork, where it's for everybody. And in the case of, say, the Yukon Wall, which is probably the most public space that I've dealt with, I don't know, it was just great seeing all the cars kind of driving down, and it's almost like I'm painting for them, is for the community, and it's for something for them to enjoy on their commute to work. And also, on another note, whenever I've put a mural in somebody's business or something like that, it's always it's fun for me to see them excited and kind of feel another sense of pride about where they work. And adding just a little bit of color to an otherwise blank slate. It's I don't know. It's just, and also it's fun putting a mural up in a place to say it's under construction, because it usually is the coolest thing that they're doing to their space. Definitely offered some great insight, and I've seen an explosion of art around the Oklahoma City area and some of the public arts there. So hopefully, continue to see not only your work but more works in that area. So. You mentioned that you're born in Costa Rica. How does your Costa Rican heritage influence or is expressed in your art? It's funny because I've been asked that a couple of times, and I don't ever really have a good answer. I think it's if there is something, it's very subconscious that I don't quite know about. Because I do feel like I've been raised in a very sort of American way. At least in Costa Rica, our cultures are not too different. And so, I feel like if there was anything, I don't know about it yet. Maybe whenever I grow older, with hindsight, I'll be able to know what it was that was ticking. But right now I'm not really sure. May require some more reflection on that. Exactly. I need to think about it a little bit more. So a lot of your artwork focuses on people and the expressions of humanity. What draws you to people within your artworks? I think a couple things. For one, I've always been a film guy. I've always been a cinephile, and I've always been also, I was very involved in filmmaking for a long time. And I kind of realized that a lot of the time what I was drawing was close-ups of people. Never, like if I never had a camera, but I always loved painting faces and expressions. And also another thing, too, that I revel in is whenever you're able to make something that's very fake, just a drawing, but make them look like there's some life. Make it look like there's some life there. And I think that the trick to me, anyway, that's the magic trick ultimately. And one of those portraits that I do is if you can show, or if you can draw a person and make people think like that person's alive in some way, then I think that's what...
I see a lot of movement in your art. It's a still art, but I see a lot of movement, even with a close-up expression of a face, the way that you express your art. I see a lot of movement. Is that intentional, you think?
Yeah, I'm actually, that's kind of cool that you picked up on that. I always seen like you're kind of taking a snapshot in the middle of emotion. Even, like there's a particular piece that's one of my favorites. That's actually, I did a drawing, and it's based from a movie called Possession, but it's a woman and she's crying, but also smiling.
I saw that one. It's on your website.
Yeah, and it's always just kind of funny to me, too, to kind of see how people, like what their take on it is, if she's happy or if she's crazy or if she's sad or if she's... I love how you can also be able to interpret it whichever way you want.
I don't think I could quite draw a conclusion to that one either. It was definitely eye-catching. It was draws emotion, but it's like, what are you drawing to? The happy, the sad? It definitely draws emotion, but I'm not sure exactly to...
Yeah, where it kind of goes. It's very ambiguous in that way. And that's, I think, like I said, I think everything that I've drawn or painted has always been very, I would love cinematic photos and stuff like that. Yeah, because
you've done some cinematic, Clint Eastwood, and there's some other...
I'm very pop culture heavy, and also I love close-ups, and I think that's why I love drawing faces, and the closer it is, the better to me. And I'm still waiting for somebody to let me paint a mural with a huge face on it, so hopefully sometime soon.
Well, that kind of leads in my last question. What does the future hold for Carlos Barboza? Upcoming works, exhibits, masterworks. What's the future hold?
Well, so far I've kind of just been going with the flow, so it's kind of hard to say where it's headed. I'm very excited, though, like I said, I've only been doing mural work professionally since March, and so I still, in the grand scheme of things, I've been doing this for a very short time. But I am very excited to kind of get into this world a little bit more, but also I've never really forgotten about filmmaking. That's something that I still want to do in the future. I've kind of almost see like all these things that I'm doing is eventually leading to do like my first film project or something.
Do you see a crossover between your art and the cinematic, and maybe those would merge in a future project? Or
maybe. Like to me, I always kind of considered it in the same vein where like it's all to me visual storytelling, and it's all trying to fill a rectangle with information. I have experience doing storyboarding and that sort of thing, and I don't know, just like to me it is kind of at the end of the day all the same thing. It's just like a visual format, a visual way for me to express myself, and that's always been what I cling on to.
Well, I think your artwork could definitely fill a gallery, and I look forward to maybe a future exhibit.
That's the goal too. I have a lot of ambitions I have plenty of canvases at home, and so I have a lot of plans to hopefully do a solo show sometime soon. I had my first I was part of an exhibit last year, which was about portraiture, which is a great fit. I'd like to, maybe a year from now or something like that, see if I can start the movement of getting myself into a solo show or something along those lines.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, and I look forward to seeing your future work, your murals, and your public art, and all that you have to offer. So thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me, Jason.
If you're in the area, take a moment to drive by the grain mills in Yukon, Oklahoma to see Carlos's work. Take a moment to drive up close to soak in all the details of his mural. Works such as this are important. Important to a community, important in the impact it makes in our own lives, most importantly, the connection it makes between us all to become human together.